The European Union has approved Ukraine's next spending envelope of €6.1 billion for defense procurement as part of the bloc's €90 billion loan program, the EU executive announced on Monday. The approval comes as Ukraine marks 35 years of independence amid a rise in civilian deaths from Russian attacks due to Kyiv's shortage of air defense systems. According to a statement by the European Commission, the defense funding aims to supply Kyiv with air and missile defense systems, missiles, ammunition, and radars. The funding also comes as EU leaders participated in key meetings in Kyiv on Monday, including the Coalition of the Willing meeting, aimed at drumming up additional air support and energy supplies for Ukraine as it edges closer to winter. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and First Lady Olena Zelenska honored the memory of fallen soldiers on Monday as the country marked their Independence Day. Zelensky and his wife laid flowers at the Wall of Remembrance, a memorial to Ukraine's fallen defenders, alongside other European leaders as part of the official celebration. No delegates from the Trump administration were present at the ceremony marking the Independence Day as Russia pushes on with its more than 4-year-old invasion of the country. US President Donald Trump says the US will double tariffs on Canadian vehicles from 2027 as he accused Ottawa of, quote, ripping off the United States of America for years. In a post on his Truth Social account, Trump wrote that starting from January next year, tariffs on Canadian automobiles, automotive parts, and steel will be increased to 50%. Current U.S. tariff rates on automobiles stand at 25% for non-U.S. content. The threats come amid a growing trade war between the two neighbors that hit a flashpoint on Friday, after talks over a deal to avoid 50% duties on some Canadian goods collapsed. According to Prime Minister Mark Carney, Canada had been forced to walk away from a bad deal. The levies, which came into effect on Saturday, impact some $20 billion worth of Canadian goods. Carney warned that Ottawa would match the U.S. tariffs, quote, dollar for dollar to protect workers and businesses. Since returning to office, Trump has been putting intense economic pressure on Canada due to several grievances and strategic motives that includes his suggestion that Canada should become the U.S. 51st state.
Month ahead of the French presidential election, a major poll puts left-wing LFI leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon in contention to go through to the second round. According to a new Toluna Harris interactive poll, Mélenchon would qualify for the second round runoff in 3 of the 5 scenarios tested. France elects its president in 2 rounds, with the 2 top candidates in the first round going head-to-head in a runoff. The candidate for the La France Insoumise Party, or France Unbowed in English, is currently polling at over 16% in the first round. Meanwhile, Raphael Glucksmann officially announced his presidential bid on Sunday, positioning himself as a social democratic pro-European alternative to LFI. There is, however, a major weakness in Mélenchon's apparent path to the Élysée. In a head-to-head contest with far-right candidate Marine Le Pen, the poll shows she would take around 68% of the vote against 32% for the LFI leader. Le Pen also beats all the other candidates tested, although her lead is much narrower against former Prime Minister Edouard Philippe.
On Saturday, Iceland will vote on whether to resume negotiations on joining the European Union. A yes vote would restart negotiations in Brussels, while a no vote would be a setback for the EU's enlargement drive. Iceland previously applied to join the bloc in 2009 following a financial crisis, but these negotiations were eventually suspended after a Eurosceptic coalition came into power in 2013. By then, Iceland's economy had largely recovered, and public support for joining the bloc also faded, with fisheries being a main point of contention. However, a reversal came in 2024 when a pro-EU coalition government took office. Since then, major geopolitical developments reshaped the international landscape, such as US President Donald Trump threatening to seize Greenland and the Arctic becoming a hot spot for rare earth minerals. This made a deeper cooperation with the EU a key variable in safeguarding Iceland. Opinion polls suggest the results are expected to be very close, with farming and fishing remaining among the most contentious issues.
After several unfortunate incidents in previous years, tourists visiting Greece this summer appear to be better informed about the dangers of ultraviolet radiation and the health risks associated with excessive sun exposure. In central Athens, increasing numbers of visitors can be seen sightseeing under the protection of hats and sunglasses, while some are even carrying umbrellas.
I travel with a hat, and this umbrella also is UV protection. So it's all UV protection.
Red Cross volunteers who assist visitors during heat waves confirm that tourists are arriving better prepared.
People tend to use more hats and other protective methods such as sunscreen and sunglasses compared to the past. Because I think they're more educated now about the UV radiation and how the sunlight and sun exposure can affect the skin and the aging of the skin and skin cancer.
Last summer was the third hottest on record in Greece, yet the extreme heat did little to deter tourists, with the country welcoming a record 38 million visitors.
6 EU countries are intensifying calls for a bloc-wide windfall tax on oil companies as profits surge amid the war in the Middle East. Finance ministers from Germany, Italy, Austria, Poland and Portugal, along with Spain's economy minister, urged Ireland to put the issue on the agenda for next month's meeting of EU finance chiefs in Dublin. The ministers called for an EU-wide framework to tax windfall profits, drawing on the temporary levy introduced in 2022 after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Beyond the proposal, Germany's finance minister Lars Klingbeil said that excessive crisis profits should be returned to consumers. Energy companies have posted major earnings as the war disrupted shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. However, the EU has not yet signaled plans for a new levy. The letter remains a preliminary draft while political divisions persist within member states, including Germany.
Yemen's Houthi rebels said on Monday that they hit a Saudi oil tanker in the Red Sea. The attack occurred 63 nautical miles west of the Red Sea city of Yanbu. The United Kingdom Maritime Trade Organization said no casualties have been reported.
بعون الله وتوفيقه تمكنت القوات المسلحة اليمنية من استهداف السفينة النفطية أمزان التابعة للعدو السعودي شمالي البحر الأحمر أمام سواحل ينبع وذلك بصاروخ باليستي وكانت الإصابة دقيقة ومباشرة بفضل الله.
Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen have attacked Saudi tankers in recent weeks as they pursue a maritime blockade of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Riyadh has since launched airstrikes on Houthi military positions and infrastructure. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which connects the southern Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden and the Indian Ocean, carries roughly 12% of global maritime trade. Riyadh announced last month a new multinational maritime defense coalition with 14 countries to protect Red Sea shipping. New Zealand's Prime Minister proposed a law banning under-16s from using social media. Prime Minister Christopher Luxon said platforms such as Instagram and TikTok would be required to verify users' age.
We would never knowingly let our children wander into places in the real world we know to be unsafe. We put boundaries around cars, around alcohol, around gambling, because we know children aren't yet equipped for them. And yet online we've left them almost completely unprotected.
Meta could be fined up to 10% of their global revenue if they fail to comply.
This is a generational shift. We are the first generation of parents raising children in a fully digital world. There is no rule book for this, but we know enough to act.
It is unclear whether the bill will pass due to opposition from 2 of the 3 parties in the coalition government. Australia banned children from social media in December. The UK, France and others followed. The Red Cross voiced alarm after 6 workers taking part in a bid to contain the deadly Ebola outbreak were harmed in attacks last week in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. In a statement, the organization said that attacks against volunteers and humanitarian personnel are unacceptable. Last week, the World Health Organization warned these assaults affect the Ebola response.
Yesterday, one of our ambulances was attacked here. One of the ambulance of the response operation was attacked here, in Bunia. And we are really extremely, very regularly challenged by this situation, by this attack on healthcare services.
Since the Ebola outbreak was declared mid-May, 12 volunteers have been injured, ambulances have been damaged, and equipment has been destroyed during 11 violent incidents. The Red Cross said tensions have emerged with local communities over the handling of Ebola victims' remains. Burials must be supervised as corpses remain contagious. In eastern Congo, youth caravans raise awareness for Ebola amid the attacks on health workers.
Sur terrain, lorsque les équipes de la riposte arrivent pour faire leur travail, il y a la jeunesse qui les attaque pour qu'ils ne puissent pas faire bien leur travail. Alors cette activité est organisée pour montrer à ces jeunes-là que la maladie existe réellement et nous devons tous unir nos efforts pour que cette maladie puisse être éradiquée.
More than 2,500 deaths from above 5,300 confirmed cases of Ebola have been registered in the DRC, according to the WHO.